What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about how to make the transition from flag football to tackle football. So we're going to be going over some advice that you guys can apply to make that transition easier and give you a smoother time when you're getting into pads. So fellas, let's talk about the biggest difference, obviously, from flag to tackle football, and that's going to be contact, right? So we're going to talk about the gear, we're going to talk about the difference in practice structure, all that good stuff as this video progresses, but contact is the thing that probably most of you are a little bit worried about. Flag, there's not much contact. Maybe you're playing in a flag league where there's some blocking, it's a totally different animal. But honestly, guys, like, I want to tell you this right now, you're going to be totally fine. Like, unless you're like completely terrified of getting hit and it's just not something you even want to engage with or interact with, then there might be an issue there. And, you know, like, I'm not going to say to choose a different sport, but it might be harder to get used to it. But at least for me, I was a guy that did not play tackle football until I got to high school. When I was a freshman in high school, that was my first year, and that was the first time ever getting real contact. But it wasn't that bad because I did a lot of training leading up to that period, or leading up to, like, I guess August, when we started to put the pads on at the high school I went to, where my quarterback coach would get like a blocking bag. I'd be going through drills, I would throw, and he'd just pop me with the blocking bag. So you get used to it. So no matter what position you're planning on playing, you guys can take that and use that. So like, you're doing footwork drills as a wide receiver, have somebody give you some contact. You're throwing as a quarterback, have somebody hit you. You're a running back going through drills, have somebody hit you. Just so you get used to that contact element and understand that you're still gonna have to be able to, like, do your job on the field and execute your job while getting some contact and while getting hit. It's a lot like a fighter, right? Like, so like, nobody could be a fighter and just do bag work and then go in and expect to be successful when they have somebody trying to punch them in the face, right? They have to spar. And now sparring doesn't need to be super hard. It doesn't need to be like the guy's trying to take your head off or, you know, knock you out cold, but you still want to spar to get used to having to fight with somebody in front of you and still maintain your technique. So that's kind of the environment that you want to try to replicate when preparing for your first tackle season. Now also, fellas, if you're a quarterback or wide receiver watching this video and you would like me to make a custom quarterback and wide receiver workout plan for you, go to that very first link in the description below for our new quarterback and wide receiver custom plan service. So essentially how it goes is you would send in film to me of you guys training at a field, game film, whatever it is. I would analyze it, break it down, draw on the screen, talk about the areas you need to improve, and then construct a custom 8-week workout plan in the gym and on the field, specifically tailored to your game and where you need to improve. So guys, if you want some more information on that, go to that very first link in the description below. That is where you can get access to it. So now, fellas, let's talk about the gear. So how do you get used to the pads? How do you get used to the helmet, the pants, whatever it is? And honestly, you just need to train with it frequently. I think that's the best way to get used to it. I think if you go, because pads and helmets are expensive, right? And again, like, the great part about football is that when you play in high school or any team, generally the team or the high school provides the gear, right? That's why a lot of lower income players or a lot of lower income people can play football, because it's not a big upfront cost, right? You don't see a lot of lower income people playing like golf because you need to get all the clubs, you need to go to the courses to play, you need to pay for the coaches. Like, it's just, again, that's the great part about football. But what I recommend is, if you can afford it, go down to Dick's Sporting Goods, go down to an academy, get a cheap pair of pads, a cheap pair of helmet, just so you get used to the weight of it and train with it on. Doing footwork drills, doing cutting drills, route running drills, whatever position that you play, just so you get used to the gear. I also recommend conditioning with it on. I know something that I saw a lot of benefit with is like 2 to 3 times a week I would be conditioning, and I would wear my helmet while I would condition. So it just helps you strengthen your neck. You get used to the headaches that you get from a helmet, because that is something that you will ultimately get. And just try to wear it frequently. I think the helmet's the hardest thing to get used to, if I'm being honest. And so if you wear the helmet around the house, watch TV with it on, just to get comfortable with it being on your head. And again, getting used to the headache and the uncomfortableness of it. It eventually goes away. It just takes some time, but that's ultimately what I'd recommend to get used to the gear. Now, generally when you put pads on for the first time in a team environment, it's probably August or end of July, and it's going to be extremely hot no matter where you live. I don't care where you live, it's going to be warm out there, and it sucks. It's not fun, especially having to get used to it the first time, right? So a couple simple things that you can do to make sure that you stay hydrated, you avoid cramps, and that you're just a little bit more comfortable at practice. So what I recommend, this is one I got from a player when I was like a sophomore in high school. That was my second year playing tackle, and this was like the varsity senior quarterback. What he did was he got a really cold towel, like just a simple dish towel, and he put it through his pads and around his neck, so that towel was on his neck the entire practice. Great idea. Immediately when I saw that, I started doing that, and it made practice so much easier. You guys have no idea. When it's 100 degrees outside, you got to practice in full gear. It sucks. So any little thing that can make you a little bit cooler is probably something good to do. So that's one piece of advice I could give you. Now, hydration. Hydration is so important. And you guys who played flag, you're used to maybe the hour-long practices where you're in and out. You know, it's not super super bad because you don't have a ton of gear, you're not sweating a lot. You're sweating. I'm not trying to discredit flag football because I played it. I get it. But it's a totally different animal when you put the pads on the full gear and you're sweating a ton. And that is what can lead to dehydration, lead to cramping in your body. So you need to make sure you stay hydrated. Now, there's a couple things that you could do, maybe more than just drinking water. Again, drinking water is the best way to go about it, right? Like, but if you want something that's a little bit faster acting, I would recommend these couple strategies that we're going to talk about. But if you just want to drink water, gallon a day. That's an easy thing to do, in my opinion, if you're drinking it throughout the day, and just stay consistent with that. But two things that I recommend. Both of these I've tried, and I've seen a lot of benefit with these. The first one's a little unconventional. Some of you might be hesitant to do it. Some of you might be hesitant. Your parents might be hesitant with it. That's totally fine. I have a much, like, I guess you could say, safer option, if you will. But you want to take a very, very, very small amount of baking soda. And look this up if you don't believe me. Baking soda. I'm talking like half or maybe less than half of a tablespoon. Put it in your water. What that's going to do is that's going to increase, like, it helps with electrolytes in your body. It helps you hydrate faster. It helps you deal with cramps. It just hydrates your body better. Now, if you're apprehensive about that, there's another way to do it. And there's this type of salt. It's called Celtic salt. I take this every day to this day. Take a little pinch of Celtic salt, put it in your water, and it has a mineral in it called magnesium. And magnesium actually helps with energy, and it also helps your body, again, with hydration. So those two things you could do and add to your game, or add to, I guess you could say, your pre-practice routine, post-practice routine, or during practice to help you avoid cramps, help you avoid dehydration, improve your energy levels, and make practice just that much easier.